Going on, guys? Welcome back to the Leave It to the Judges MMA show with the boys, Nick and Xavier. How's your Thanksgiving, guys?
Fantastic, man. Good time with family and shit. Good food. I didn't actually drink this Thanksgiving, but I've been trying to cut back a little bit. I was kind of wanting a beer or two as well, but especially after that Bears game. But overall, for a sober Thanksgiving, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Had the fam, good turkey, good stuff.
Nice, nice. I'm sure we're all very thankful. Are we thankful for this card? How are we feeling about UFC 310? That is the card we are covering, guys. It has a lot of really good fights. It's missing like really big, like a really good headliner. Asakura versus Pantoja is our main event at flyweight for the strap. Asakura debut at 125, or not debut at the weight class, but debut in the UFC at for a title shot. Pretty pretty crazy stuff there. But how do you guys feel about this card overall? I feel people are very high or low on it. Where are you guys?
I mean, me personally, I'm pretty high on it, man. For like the diehard fans, like there's a lot of matchups all throughout the card that like give you a lot to be excited for. I mean, the second match of the night of the early prelims is Clay Guida versus Chase Hooper. Like that's gonna be a fucking banger. Like just like I think Cody Durden, Josh Van, like banger. We're gonna get to run back the Weidman Anders fight. Um yeah, I mean honestly the prelims by themselves could like headline a fight night card easy. Like I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with this fight with this card. I mean like you said, no big one name to draw you in, but like overall, it's a pretty stacked card, I would say.
Yeah, it's a pretty good card. I would like it more though. It would be stacked if Shavkat was fighting Bilal though. I feel like it is missing that fight from here. Even though him versus Gary is a pretty big fight, but I don't know, overall pretty good card. Honestly, the main card kind of trash to be honest compared to the rest of the card. Depth wise, this is a good card overall.
Yeah, this is a very deep card. Last time Pantoja headlined a card in Brazil is him versus Urzik. People were not happy about that card, rightfully so. It was very shallow. But this one, yeah, they made sure they knew they had a weak main event, so they made the rest of the card strong. Let's start at the tippy top, guys. We got a title fight at flyweight. Pantoja, this is his third title defense against Kai Asakura. I believe I've watched some of his highlights. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched a single one of his fights live, but he seems to be a knockout artist, really good counter striker, good knees, punches. We all know what Pantoja is about, grappling heavy. He can strike on the feet, but usually smothers his opponents. What are you guys' expectations on this title fight?
I think that my expectations are gonna be realized the second Pantoja tries to shoot his first takedown and like how Kai deals with that. Because Kai's grappling and how like he deals with the physicality of like a Pantoja who's like pretty strong. I feel like that's gonna like dictate the fight. I think that if Kai easily shucks off like a takedown or two, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna probably favor him to win the matchup. Just if it's a 5 round like striking fest. But at the same time, if he can't like deal with the Pantoja takedowns and control, then like I think it might just be a long night for him. I do think he will have his moments regardless, because as we talk about a lot, Pantoja does tend to gas out, so there will be at least a moment or two where I think Kai's gonna be stinging him on the feet if Pantoja's a little gas, but then it comes back to can he get that takedown that he needs to like settle things down and regain control of the fight. And if he can't get that, we might have a new champion. But if he can, then I mean I think it's rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I mean the simple answer here is I don't really know. I think it's very unknown because Asakura, everything I've seen from him, very fast, athletic, definitely very well rounded on the feet. But 14 of his finishes first round. And I just feel like against a guy like Pantoja, who's at his best in the first round, if he can get that takedown in the first, I think it's rinse and repeat the rest of the fight, to be honest. Um, I'm not sure what Asakura has in the grappling realm. That's very unknown, so maybe he'll surprise us, but Pantoja's probably the best in the division right now when it comes to grappling, wrestling. Very well conditioned, even though he gasses out, he pulls his way through. And
I
I don't know if Asakura can go all five. He might have a gas tank problem as well. Most of his fights have finished early. It's a very interesting matchup, but I would say the experience of Pantoja in the UFC probably gets it done here. I don't know about easily, like Asakura will have his moments, but I mean, if it goes decision, it's gonna be like 49-46, something like
yeah,
that.
I kind of agree with that. Pantoja, just his resume, the people he's fought, just far more impressive. And I just found this out. You guys are not gonna like this stat. For Kai Asakura, he is 1-3 in title shots or in title fights. He's 1-3, so that's not great. He lost three of them by knockout, or two of those by knockout. But yeah, I just don't know if this guy can defend Pantoja's takedowns. Not a lot of guys in the UFC has been able to. Where in terms of striking, I know you guys don't know a whole lot about him, but in terms of striking, does Asakura rank in Pantoja's opponents for striking? Like, is he one of the better strikers that he fought? He did just fight Urzik, neutralized him pretty well.
Like you said, it's like we don't know because like in all of these highlights I've seen for Asakura, I don't know like even who he's fighting. Like I don't know what the level of competition is to like judge like okay, yeah, you're landing like devastating body punches. I've seen a couple of instances of like good body shots shutting down his opponents and shit. But like are they cans? Like do they always get crippled by body shots? Like I don't know what the grit of these people like the grit meter is for these guys. So like you said, man, it's just a fat unknown here, especially jumping from like that to like the absolute like peak of flyweight UFC competition. Like if he would have had a tune-up fight, maybe like fought like a Kai Kara France or something, like a litmus test guy, then I would be a lot more confident one way or the other. But right now, all I've seen is this man crush cans, and I've seen Pantoja come through against like high level opposition. So I have to lean him for now. But I wouldn't be like overly surprised if like Kai gets in there and starts whooping his ass. I just don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I completely agree with that. I think overall, I just feel like Kai on the feet, if it stays on the feet the whole time, Kai has a much better chance to win the fight for sure. But even then, like I don't know the gas tank. And Toja can still hit hard as well, and he has been knocked out a few times as Sakura. So I mean, he could catch him with something as well. So I just feel like there's definitely more weapons for Pantoja just to win this fight overall. Uh, yeah, as Sakura, he needs to keep on the feet as long as possible, but I don't even know what the gas tank's gonna look like.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think Pantoja, he does have power, but he's not one of those guys who's just going to stand with you. He's going to mix in that wrestling, that jujitsu. And Xavier, you touched on like the grit of Kai. We don't really know where it's at. We know where Pantoja's grit is at. He's the grit master, man. We always touch. He always looks really tired, but he pushes through, wins rounds late in the fight. Anything else on this one, guys, before we move on to the co-main?
What promotion is Kai coming from? Is it one?
I think one or Ryzen. Let me see.
I think it's Ryzen.
Ryzen?
I believe so.
He's in Japan top team. Yeah, Ryzen.
Yeah, it is the one with the ring, right? Yeah. Shit, man. Even like we don't know how like the cage is gonna like help him or not help him. Like we just don't know, man. We just don't know. But if he comes out, shocks the world, man, like more power to him. Because Pantoja is a BMF for sure.
Yeah, 21-4, 13 knockouts. I think it'll be a fun one. Are you guys looking forward to this fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not the fight on the card that I'm like most excited for, but like it is the one that I have like naturally the most questions about. So yeah, that intrigues me for sure. And
Yeah.
plus, Pantoja's always like fiending for a new challenger to keep that division interesting. So we'll see what Kai's got.
All right, then let's move on to the co-main. It was originally supposed to be Rakhmonov versus Bilal Muhammad, but Bilal pulled out. Ian Gary steps in, undefeated versus undefeated. Huge favorite for Rakhmonov. Let me check the odds really quick. I believe, yeah, he is minus 375 to Gary's plus 295. Ian Gary coming off that win against MVP. I believe Rachmanov's last time was against Wonder Boy. What are you guys' thoughts on Ian Gary being the replacement for Bilal Muhammad in this non-title 5 round fight?
First of all, let me just say this: like, props to the UFC for not just slapping an interim title on this fight for no reason. I feel like one, they easily could have because it's Bilal and fuck him kinda, and two, like they have in other fights, you know what I mean? Like slapping an interim title in this fight is the low-hanging fruit that they've taken a million times, and like I do appreciate their restraint with just like letting this be a contender fight, as well as Shavkat's like, I respect Shavkat because he didn't need to take this. He could have just been like, no, I already was promised a title fight. I'll just wait for that. That's how much he's like, nah, like one, that's how much he believes in himself and like doesn't believe in Ian Gary, man. He's like, nah, like I'll kill all of you. It doesn't matter like what order if I have the belt, if I don't. Like he knows he's the best, and like I respect that. He's saving the card by fighting Gary. I mean, shout out Ian Gary too for stepping up. I mean, you basically get assured a title shot with a win here. So, I mean, it's not like the carrot that's being dangled in front of him is not enticing, but I mean, he still didn't have to take this fight, and it's like obviously the boogeyman of the division, and he's just stepping in there. So, good grit. I respect Ian Gary for taking this fight. I do expect him to lose because after seeing him Russell fuck MVP and hold on for dear life, nut hugging him for 3 rounds. Like, try that with Shafkat, I dare you. It will not go your way, I promise. So, I don't know what exactly he sees as his path to victory here. It's gonna have to be just with the boxing, like keeping shit on the feet here. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see him having too much success in this matchup, and like because of that, I like give him props for taking the fight nonetheless, man. The Fighting Irish. He's carrying on that fight anyone Conor McGregor legacy, and like I respect it.
Ooh, I like that Gary stepped up. I do also agree with you, X. I do think it's good they didn't make this an interim title fight. I don't think that'd be fair to Bilal. He's only been out like 4 months, something like that.
If they were
He'll
gonna
probably
expect anyone, it would be Bilal, though. I think like I would
take,
expect.
but yeah, 4 months out, that'd be outrageous. I feel like that'd be crazy. But um, yeah, Gary's an interesting opponent to step up here. Undefeated. He's kind of got that Irish aura about him. And it definitely makes an interesting fight. Two undefeated guys in a title eliminator. It's fantastic. They train together, so they know a little bit about each other for sure. So, Ian knows not to go to the ground. He understands that at this point. So, Ian's gonna have to win this fight basically through boxing, kickboxing, whatever he's got to do on the feet. But on the feet, I feel like Shavkat's a lot closer to him. So like, eh, he gonna take him down and submit him. And like I said all those months ago, I was hoping he'd have one of these fights. I'm happy Shavkat took this fight because I didn't want to go. I didn't want him to go into the Bilal fight like rusty off a year,
Mhm.
and it would have been a year and a half if he waited. So. Nah, like I'm loving this from him. And once he finishes them, 19 finishes, 19 and 0, we're gonna get the 20th finish with the world title. Thank you very much, Falal. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. But yeah, I always shit on Ian Gary. He's not one of my favorite fighters, but yeah, he got balls, man, for taking this fight on short notice. Apparently, the UFC asked a bunch of other welterweights, and they all said no. And welterweight, like, there's a lot of great names, but the fight, I feel like they haven't made a lot of great.
Usman. I know Kamaru Usman fucking said no, bro. I'm
Usman's been asking for a fight for like 2 years, and he just never gets a fight. Get off the
this
podcast with Henry Cejudo, dude.
This should just retire.
this guy this guy.
No, but anyways, yeah. I'm obviously going with Rachmanov. Ian Gary, his last couple of fights, he utilized his grappling really well, and Rachmanov has a 100% takedown defense. He's never been taken down in his career, so I don't think that's.
Bilal, you hear that, Bilal? 100% takedown defense. What you gonna do?
I do think there's going to be a lot of clinch work by Ian Gary. I think Ian Gary's best path to victory is, yeah, just outpointing him with strikes. I would love to see him utilize the leg kicks a lot against Rachmanov. You got to slow this guy down somehow, but I just think the pressure, the chin, and the power is just going to be too much for Ian Gary. We've seen Ian Gary get dropped before. He doesn't have a lot of power himself. And yeah, I just think Rachmanov is going to beat him and move on to fight Bilal Muhammad, hopefully soon. Apparently, Bilal said he's ready for a quick turnaround. Like it'll be a few months.
It's a toe infection, so
Yeah,
like
so like whoever wins this fight, let's get him in there against Bilal ASAP. I don't think this is gonna.
like
Yeah, ASAP, man. I don't think either of these guys are gonna take a lot of damage in this fight, or maybe Ian Gary will, but still, get Shafkat in there ASAP. How do you guys see this fight finishing? I'm a little confused how this fight's gonna look exactly. Like, how do you guys see? Like, what's the final result here?
I think maybe late round two sub. I just think that at some point Gary's gonna clinch up and like end up in a ill-advised grappling exchange. I kind of see it. And like once they're like a little bit more tired, a little less springy, I just see Shavkat like one just having a physicality advantage and just kind of like getting to the positions he needs to against Gary to like sub him up. However that may come.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think if this thing goes to the ground right away, I think Shavkat could snatch it up in under 3 minutes, to be honest. But I'll go like
Right? It's a three rounder?
No, it's five.
five.
Oh, he's fucked then. Okay, never mind. He's fucked. Go ahead, Clark.
Yeah, it's five. But but get luck getting to the end of three. Remember, Shavkat never been past three, though. It ain't happening that long. We only need two. Early second round sub.
Okay, okay. Now, Clark, as a Rachmanov diehard fan, what are you most worried about in this fight for him that Ian Gary has to offer, realistically?
Realistically, I mean, definitely on the feet. I will say Shavkat sometimes boxing wise leaves his hands a little low. He can be hit. He's not defensively sound, I'll admit that, but his chin is, made of granite from what we saw in the Jeff Neal fight. So I feel confident going in. Like I don't think Gary's more powerful than Jeff Neal. So at least from a power standpoint, and Jeff Neal missed weight in that fight by like 4 or 5 pounds. He might have even had more power in that fight, and Shavkat took him. And so I'm not worried about the power. I'd say like the length of Gary, maybe on the feet. I think he's one of the few people that could probably like get to Shavkat on the feet without having to like rush in really. He could pick from the outside a little bit on him. So I'd say the length. The length.
Now, like you guys said, I think it is a good thing that there's no interim belt attached to this. I think this fight is going to make the Bilal fight more exciting. Does this fight get you guys more hyped to see them fight Bilal Muhammad in a title fight?
Yes. Absolutely. Like I want to. Like the winner of this, I'm picking against Bilal no matter what. If Ian Gary somehow to magically wins this fight, I'm picking him versus Bilal. It doesn't matter. So I'll be happy to watch Bilal lose. So I'm excited for that.
I don't know personally if I agree with that. I think that Bilal might be a terrible matchup for Ian Gary from what I've seen, but um yeah, I just think that Shavkat to this point like Wonder Boy, Neil, like he doesn't have like that signature win over like a top five type caliber opponent. Um, so I think that a lot of his credibility just comes from like how he's finishing these fights and you know, more so than like who he's beating actually, and like how he looks in the fights. So I think that beating a Gary, even though Gary's also like a climbing contender, I think it does like legitimize him against some like what we all consider to be like high level competition, I guess. So I
Yeah.
think it just makes sure he's ready for the title shot, even though like I have no doubt in my mind personally he is, but I mean
Also, you got to love the fact that they're both undefeated. I love when two undefeated guys get in there. Someone's oh has got to go, but it looks like we're all picking Rachmanov. Anything else, guys? Before I move on,
for all my betters out there, man, this is going in the lock parlay.
oh
I
my
have a little lock, little chalky lock parlay going, and like this is definitely the first fucking entering,
just the money line.
just the money line.
Okay, okay.
I would take him and Pantoja as locks, to be honest.
They're both pretty heavy favorites. It's pretty
And
interesting.
thorough game, to be honest.
Seriously,
Honestly, the top three looking
one
easy.
fifty minus 155. But yeah, let's move on to that fight. A rematch at heavyweight. Gone, yeah, gone a slight. Oh wait, no, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at their last fight. What are the current odds for this one?
Oh, he's minus 340.
Okay,
I
so
was hoping for the first one.
yeah, he was a much bigger favorite, or yeah, much bigger favorite in the second fight. In the first fight, it was pretty close. He won a 5 round decision. He outlanded Volkov 139 to 115. Uh, how do you guys see the second fight going? And do you guys think it'll be any different from the first one? Striker versus striker at heavyweight. How are we feeling?
Well, this is my boy God. From what I recall from the first fight, Ed, he whooped Volkov's ass every round. It was not a close fight. I believe it was a 50-45 on all. Like the number, I don't know what those numbers are.
I'm looking at
I'm
the
not gonna
recap.
lie, actually watching the fight, Gon was just dancing around him the whole fight, which I kind of feel like is where we're going. Like it's striker versus striker out there. Gon is the faster, more technically sound, crispier striker kickboxer. So I feel like it's just the same story. I'm shocked Volkov pulled off a win against Pavlovich to get here and it still somehow has a shot at the title shot. Amazing stuff from Volkov, I can't lie. I respect him a lot just for staying in it, but as long as Gon, like, they're training, or his coach is saying they were supposed to fight at 300 against Pavlovich. That didn't work. Like, there was a bunch of fights he was supposed to do. It wasn't just all the movie, but like, as long as he was training during that time actually and putting in the work, he should win this fight, I think, pretty handily. And it's a three-rounder. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you. I think that on the feet, Cyril Gane is still like the best striker in the division that I've seen. Um, John Jones looked really good in his last fight, but it was against Stipe, and like, we haven't, I'm not gonna just off that one fight alone, give him the title of best striker on the feet. So John Jones, like obviously, like, notwithstanding here, like Cyril Gane is like by far to me the best striker in the division. In terms of like his movement, his cardio, We've seen him push like, a hard five several times at this point. And granted, he was getting wrestle fucked against Ngannou, but like I wouldn't say like that's purely just because of like gas out issues. He can still keep his little bouncing style for like basically 5 rounds, even if he slows down a little bit. Like it's heavyweight, who doesn't, right? Um, Volkov is coming against like a stick and move victory against Pavlovich. And as a challenge, while like Pavlovich does have more like of a knockout threat for sure than Gon, like that's about all he has. Um Gon I think has a quickness advantage, probably a cardio advantage, a technique advantage. Like Volkov really would need to secure a takedown and get a finish on the ground, and I just don't see him even attempting to fight like that. Unless like by the time I think he's gonna be going for takedowns, he'll probably already be busted up by that point. I also just have to assume that like Cyril Gane has a little grit to him and like works his grappling. So I'm gonna assume that Cyril Gane gets the dub here.
All right, I'll start. One sec. Okay, yeah, but you guys touched on it. Just the difference between Pavlovich and Gon striking. It's just they're polar opposites. Pavlovich was just like a bull in there, spamming overhand rights, and Gon's a savant in there. And until I see someone take like get the advantage of him on the feet, I just can't pick against Gon in a striking battle. That's what this is gonna be. Volkov only has 3 submissions on his record. He can grapple, but this is gonna be on the feet. And yeah, now that it's shorter, I just like that more for Gon. I think he'll be able to bank rounds easier. I don't see anyone really getting a finish here. I think it's gonna go all 3 rounds. And Gon, the winner should get the next title shot, I think, right? After Jones and Aspinall.
Nah, Gane's fucked, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I
It,
think that Gane's not. He's gonna have to win at least
he did
because
beat Spivak.
you will never fight John Jones again. I'm gonna put it like that. So
Okay.
He needs that.
basically, they're gonna stall him out until there's a new champion, which I'm gonna say is gonna be Aspinall, just because like either John's gonna beat Aspinall and then fight Pereira and then retire, or worst comes to worst, he's just gonna relinquish the belt and Aspinall's gonna get the title. I think that whenever Aspinall gets the title, whether he loses to John or not, I think that he will get the belt. Like I think that there's no one else really that's I would favor to beat him after John Jones retires. And so I think that he's probably gonna get the first crack against Aspinall. Or if it's like a vacant belt, he might get like the title shot against Tom for the vacant belt. But I don't think that he's gonna ever see John Jones again. John Jones will never fight him again. Like, especially for someone who like John, who like he's like, I just beat you in the most devastating way possible. I have nothing to gain. Like I can only like even if I beat you again in like 2 rounds, like it'll still look lesser than the first performance. Like there's no way he can top his first performance.
Yeah.
So he would never fight him again. And so like I think that Gon just has to basically wait until John Jones is not the champion, and
Okay.
hopefully in that time span, sharpen that grappling enough to maybe defend some Tom Aspinall takedowns.
Yeah. And like Volkov could have the most impressive performance ever Saturday night. John Jones is not fighting his ass. There is no way in hell. There is no money there for him. There's no pay-per-view there for him. So yeah, I don't see either of these guys fighting John. Obviously, if Aspinall is the champ, he could fight either of these guys. Volkov would be a rematch, but anything else on this one, guys? It should be a fun little scrap.
Yeah, this is also like I said before, going on the fucking chalky locky parlay, man. Need
Yeah.
it, bro.
All right, though. Let's move on to a questionable fight to say the least at featherweight. Minus 800, ranked 13th featherweight. Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie, plus 550. The fact that this is on the main card and there are so many great fights on the prelim is disgraceful. Bryce
Absolutely.
Mitchell's Bryce Mitchell is coming off one of the worst knockout losses, arguably ever in UFC history. Kron Gracie hasn't won a fight in like 3, 4 years. What are your guys' thoughts and expectations on this potential war, this grappling war?
I think in the grappling, like Kronk Gracie has the jujitsu to make this interesting. I don't think that he has anything on the feet is the problem. Like a lot of the great,
Anything.
he doesn't have jack shit on the feet. And I think that after getting pieced by Taporia, I think that Mitchell might one have just got back in the striking lab, and two, I think he might want to he finally has a matchup he can like beat someone up on the feet. He might just want to like exploit that a little bit. Even though I think he has the grappling to hang with Kron Gracie, at least for like stints. I think that Bryce's wrestling is a lot better. He should be able to get to like more dominant positions where like they to even grapple. But I can see him like even before that gets involved, like if he's smart, if he has any kind of IQ, I can see him just beating up Gracie on the feet and then maybe going to the ground when Gracie's battered and tired. If he wants to finish it like that, he can. Or like just continue to just, avoid the grappling altogether and just piecing him up on the feet. But yeah, I don't know why this fight is so high on the card. This is clearly a bounce back spot for Mitchell. They're giving him a very winnable opponent to say the least for his style. And I mean, I see through the UFC's ploys, bro. I see what they're fucking trying to do.
What
I
are they?
mean, yeah, what are they trying to do?
What are they trying to do? What are you trying to say?
I just think that like Bryce Mitchell, with his camo shorts, he says controversial shit. I mean, like of like the fighters who are not exactly championship level, like that middle rung of like interesting guys, I feel like Bryce Mitchell's like a big name, like a
Okay.
big name, and I think that coming off, I mean, he got sparked by Emmett. He got a close decision with Ige in between that, and then he got sparked by Taporia. So I think that like just getting him some momentum. I think that like the UFC is a little bit more interesting when Bryce Mitchell's Bible banging and fucking coming in there with his camo shorts, getting dubs. You know, I just think that like he's an eccentric guy, and I think that slapping him on cards adds a lot of depth to them. And I think that when the UFC notices they have like a good guy like that with like good name recognition, like you don't want him just to be facing killers and like losing all their like shine. He's like a
Yeah.
Kevin Holland type. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, like Kevin Holland can take two losses in a row, and then what is the UFC gonna do? Team up a softball, get him back on track.
Yeah.
Because like one, you can have other contenders build their name off Bryce Mitchell, Kevin Holland, or you can just put them in fun fights as well. So I mean. I just see them like just basically feeding Gracie to this man, honestly, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's definitely agendas here. Um, I'm sorry. I've never liked Bryce Mitchell in or outside of the cage. I think he's annoying. I've never thought he was good, really, at all. I loved watching him getting knocked out by Emmett. And the fact that I'm about to defend Aljamain Sterling here. The fact that he's on this spot above him and Evilov is absolutely disgraceful. We're talking about a former champion coming off a dub, fighting arguably a number one contender in Evilov, who's up next for a title shot, like an up and comer, a real up and comer that people think will challenge for the belt soon. It's clearly because they hate Sterling. They absolutely hate Sterling, and it's kind of funny. That 300 performance is definitely the reason he's here. I'm pretty sure like everyone got bonuses but them. Dana White hates Aljamain Sterling. But still, this is terrible. Clark, even you, his number one hater, have to admit this is terrible.
Of course. But it's not because of Bryce Mitchell, Ed. Why the fuck is Crone Gracie fighting a ranked fighter right now at 5-2? Has looked terrible since coming into the UFC. And well, since he came back off like a 5-year layoff or however long he took to somehow learn no striking at whatsoever. And so far, all I've seen him do is he does the pulleys thing, the Claudio pulleys. He tries to pull people in, but I haven't seen this man snatch up one submission yet. So I feel like this is a perfect fight for Bryce Mitchell. Like I think he can beat him everywhere in this fight, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like I've just not seen Crone look good whatsoever. I, i- isn't he old as well? Like he's older, right?
mean, dude, just look at him. I'm sure you guys have the UFC website pulled up. Just look at his like fate, like him next to Mitchell.
He looks like a homeless man,
It looks like
bro.
homeless and like
He's 36. Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's no way Bryce loses this fight unless like Crone
So
and
somehow snatches a sub, but
yeah,
I just don't see it based on he lost to Charles Jourdain and Jourdain wrestled him. Like, I just don't see it like whatsoever. I think Bryce easily wins. This fight should not be on the main card. I don't know why it's there. It's going to be a boring fight. I don't think it's going to be interesting.
yeah,
What's like
bro,
even I love great grappling. Like I do see interest in it. I don't think this will be one of those moments. I think Bryce will just kind of hold him down there.
yeah. I just this is how I see the fight going. Like they'll like poke at each other on the feet a little. Bryce Mitchell gets a takedown. He sits on him for the rest of the round. That's gonna be that for 3 rounds. I promise you.
he sits on them is crazy. No, there's literally like even on the early prelims, there is two fights that I would put above this: the Whiteman fight and the Clay Guida Chase Super fight. And
Yeah,
then you could argue even Max Griffin and Chiesa should be higher than this. Like the placement of like the whole card is just really fucking me up, to be honest. Like I don't know what they got going with this. It seems like they're really either pushing some real like personal agendas here, or like they owe some people some favors or something. But the placement of this card just makes no sense to me at all.
and we're not talking about political agendas. We're talking about like anti-Sterling agendas or like social media agendas because yeah, they clearly like Bryce Mitchell's goofy like hillbilly thing gimmick, but
That's
I don't know.
true. I agree with that.
But hey, man, could you imagine how cool it would be also if Kron Gracie was like raw as fuck? Like you have a Gracie that's like a title contender, like really nasty, but he's terrible. He's literally just an abomination.
Like
They
it's
refuse to learn
crazy.
how to strike. That's the problem. They just don't. They won't tap in on the striking classes, and that's the issue.
Yeah. The striking classes.
This is not 1990 anymore, bro. You got to be fucking well-rounded to thrive in this sport. You can't just be one-dimensional.
Yeah, so has to be Kron's last fight if he loses. But let's
Why is he still signed? Like, why is he still
because
signed?
he's a Gracie, bro. You gotta respect it.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Nepotism at its finest.
Facts. Let's move on to the opener of the main card. This one is a lot more fun. Duho Choi versus Nate Landwehr. Two really fun, scrappy guys. Duo Choi coming off his first dub in a really long time in July. Nate Landwehr's last fight was against, let me see,
Jamal Emmers.
Emmers in March. So yeah, this should be a super fun fight. I could see a lot of knockdowns in this one. How do you guys see this opener going?
For me, I'm gonna lean slightly
Choi a
dual.
small underdog.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Choi just because like one, the common rule, man. One underdog has to win on every card. I feel like Choi is like live to do it, man. I'm really impressed with Choi striking. He's always has a good chin and shit. And I just feel like I see this mostly playing out on the feet, and I mean, I don't see too much that Nate Landwehr like completely outpaces Choi on. So this is kind of a coin flip, more of a coin flip fight to me. Um, I understand that Landwehr has more momentum, but I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and gut feeling pick Choi here. I think he can get this done. Decision, of course.
Yeah, I think this is a very fun fight. I think it could be a very bloody fight as well. I think they're gonna scrap on the feet, but both of them definitely have takedowns in their arsenal. I feel like they are very similar fighters, both of them. But I will say, like, I do kind of want to go Doo Hoo Choi because I think he's the more technical fighter, and I think he's a little more patient and can pick his shots against Landwehr, who'll be storming in a lot more. I think Landwehr will be on the pressure at the beginning of this fight, so Doo Hoo might have to survive like the first minute. But I think Landwehr doesn't hit super hard. I would say he does have finishes, but it's usually wearing people out as the fight goes along or making these like crazy comebacks when they're tired. But I feel like Dooku, who did he fight last? Who did he fight in the
Uh,
last? It was
Uh,
someone decent, right?
Algio,
Aljo,
Bill
yeah.
Algio, yeah,
Okay. I mean,
it's not
not
terrible.
the best fighter in the world, but
He knocked him out.
I mean, knocked him out, and that is impressive. Bill Algio usually doesn't get finished like that in that circumstance. So I feel like this is kind of one of the tougher fights to call on this card. I think this is the biggest toss up. I slightly lean Choi because of his technique.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys. I think he has just more power. Also, there's gonna be a lot of big exchanges. But I think yeah, Landwehr will have a really good start. I think he'll win the first round off activity. But I think Choi's gonna land the bigger shots as the fight goes on. That's a banger. Anything else on that one?
But that's just a sleeper for like fight of the night, honestly.
Oh
Like just
yeah, for sure,
that's two guys who are just gonna get in there and scrap, throw down.
definitely. Let's move on to the prelims. We'll start at the top. This is a pretty interesting one. All memes aside, we got two former John Jones opponents. We got Anthony Smith at 13 versus Reyes at 12. Reyes a minus 345 favorite, which is crazy. He's coming off that knockout win. Is against who was that? Who did he knock out? Jacoby. That was just a huge comeback win, man. He could go for a second title run here, taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith, a fan favorite here on the channel. We love Anthony Smith here. How do we see the battle? This is an all time light heavyweight bout. How do we see this one going?
I would tell you
Oh,
this,
God.
and I will not mince my words. Whoever loses this fight should lose. Okay. Um, here's looking at you, Anthony Smith, man. Just get on the desk, man. I feel like he has a lot to offer as an analyst. I respect his knowledge, Anthony Smith. And at one point, he was like a pretty credible fighter, worked his way to a fight with John Jones. But like many fighters before, they just, they feel like that's just their moment, Fighting John Jones, that's their moment. And they just, much like Dominic Reyes, they just like max out their abilities for that one fight. And then it's a downward trajectory from there. Two guys, same story in this fight. Dominic Reyes, he was like a few seconds away from just like being in the same exact position as Anthony Smith, man. He barely touched that Jacoby went up, man. He was rocked before that. So, I mean, like, even though the odds are great, like, there's a great disparity in the odds. Like, there's not that great of a disparity in like their situations, I would say. But I mean, number 12 versus 13. Basically, if Dominic Reyes has any hope of regaining any kind of UFC career, he has to win this fight. Losing to this version of Anthony Smith is just absolutely unacceptable for anyone who has any real aspirations in their career at this point. Um, Outside of being absolutely gifted a sub by Victor Petrino and one of the most dumb decisions, most infuriating losses of my parlay I've ever
Yeah,
seen
that was man.
betting on the sport. Like Smith has looked like shit in recent years. He did beat Ryan Spann by a split decision a couple fights ago, but like Ryan Spann is like the model of inconsistency. And that's way more like Spann just lost that fight than Anthony Smith took it and won.
And I would
So
pick Span to beat his ass if they fought
yeah,
like tomorrow.
nine times out of 10, I would pick Spain again, even after seeing how the first one played out. So, I'm gonna be throwing Dominic Reyes in my chalky locky parlay as,
Really, really.
and if he's the only person with the potential to ruin it to me. And I don't think that he's bad enough to lose to Anthony Smith. That's just really it's way more about how I feel about Anthony Smith at this current point in their careers. There's no fucking reason to lose to this man, bro.
Okay. He's 1-3 in his last four.
Okay, honestly, whoever wins this fight is the meme king. These are two meme fighters out here right now, just like battling it out to see who could be the best meme at this point. I mean, if everything if everything's going right in the world, Dominic Reyes should win this fight. Like, there's just no way, right? There's no chance Anthony Smith should retire. Even though he's 36, it's not like he's super
He's been
old.
fighting forever.
Yeah, he's UFC, he's MMA old for sure. And I just feel like at this point he's worn out. He doesn't look like he wants to fight out there. So I don't get why he still is. Like, go make some money at the desk. Like, you would be
He's
perfect, I think, for that, like, as an analyst.
38-20. So he's been around for a while.
Jeez.
That's
A
crazy.
little
But
too
yeah.
long, a little too long if you ask me.
Too long.
Yeah,
I
well,
I feel like the fact that he's a company man is like the only thing that's keeping him, employed
oh,
here.
for sure.
He's just not like, like he's clearly like lined up for like that one of the desk jobs or, some other role within the company. So the UFC is kind of trying to like push him towards that retirement, and like obviously Dana doesn't like. I mean, we've seen that like there's certain fighters like Tony Ferguson, they get like a fat leash in terms of like amounts of losses that they can take. The bigger your name is, like I'm sure that the UFC, because Anthony Smith is like a known name to if you reach a John Jones fight, you're more known than most, I would say. So I feel like Dana White would have no problem just keep, wood chipping this man to contenders. So it's up to him to like, decide he doesn't have it anymore. And like you said, like my problem with him is like his grit is gone. Like I've seen him just fold up and like for large points in the fight, like the moment he has any adversity in the cage, like he just doesn't he mentally checks out. He'll just go into survival mode and like that is just no way to live in there. Like this is not a sport that you should do if your heart's not in it. And like clearly his heart's not been in it for a couple years now. So get the fuck out of there. Stop talking about this phantom title shot that you can earn. Like it's over, bro. It's
So
over. Much respect to you, but like it's over, bro.
at one point, these two were at the top of the division. It's crazy to think.
No one's attacking your family. Like it's
You
over,
don't
bro.
you don't know that.
It's over, bro. He doesn't know that
I think
clearly.
Ray is coming for you.
It's
All
over.
right. Let's move on really quickly before we go to the Sterling fight. We got Luque versus Garimbo. It was supposed to be Nick Diaz, believe it or not, but he obviously did not make it to the fight. Like anyone could have called that. You guys want anything on this one before we move on to the Evilov fight?
Prayers to Nick Diaz, man. I don't know what's going on in his life, bro, but
Just
like,
stop trying to fight. It's all good, man. You're a legend. You don't need to fight anymore.
even if you have money problems, like your brother should be able to like look out for you a little type shit, like
Yeah.
Oh, y'all are tight. Y'all are like this, man, and it's like not even with any disrespect that I say this. It's like out of genuine concern. I have like more respect for Nick Diaz and the Diaz brothers, but particularly Nick Diaz and like a lot of these other fighters, man. A pioneer, a fucking absolute savage in his day. He got wrongly fucked out of like 7 years of his prime. Um, and unfortunately, that just seemingly those 7 years just expired his MMA fighting life. As much as I hate to say that, um, I was looking forward to seeing him get back in there. He did look like he was in better shape than he did against Robbie, but I mean, I've seen like videos of him on the side of the road just doing nut shit and just I'm glad that this fight was canceled if he's not going to be of sound mind in there. I don't want to see him go in and get hurt. And like, for as kind of washed as Luque is, I think Luque can still probably beat up a diminished version of him. So I would not want to see that. And props to the UFC for recognizing that they could have just not gave a fuck about his health, but just for a big name value, threw him in there to get killed and shit. But I respect them for, maybe putting their money, their pocketbooks aside for once and, being like, nah, like he's in no condition to fight. And we're gonna like, protect him from himself. So I
Yeah,
respect it.
yeah, you just hate to see like old fighters just go too long. Even Luque, man, it's tough to see him fight because of that whole brain thing. Like it just makes me nervous. Like I don't know why these guys keep fighting, but
But yeah, of this for this actual matchup, do you guys think that Garimbo beats Luque?
yeah, he should.
Much momentum right now.
I don't know like what the like how long he's had of notice for this fight, but like I think that he should win.
He's on a 4 fight streak.
I think it was like a few weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, as long as he was training at all, or like
and
not
he
at
just fought
all.
in October.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have got too out of shape, if anything. So, yeah, I think that Luque's time as a ranked fighter has rightfully come to an end here. Um, I think Garimbo gets the dub here.
All right, let's move on, guys. The Evilov versus Sterling. We got number 5 versus number 9 here. Big favorite for Evilov, minus 250, 205 for Sterling, former champion. Uh, Clark, why don't you start us off with this one?
Was he former champion? Because we know Ray was holding back Marab from him, so who knows? But now Marab's lying on embedded like, oh, Aljo just dominated me all day. Come on, Marab. We know what would really happen without the cameras. But look, anyways, the fight matchup wise, very interesting. Both heavy grapplers, wrestlers. Honestly, we're gonna find out who the better one is once they get in there. And I think that's where whoever's better in those transitions, I think wins the fight. I think it's as simple as that when you look at both of them on the feet. I think Evilov might be slightly better. I mean, that's pretty even too, though. Aljo probably has the edge in like kicks. We'll throw a few leg kicks in there, so he'll have the slight edge maybe in that department on the feet. Boxing wise, they're probably as even as it gets. But this is all going to be on the ground, and it's tough to go against an Av when it comes. If that's going to be the game plan here,
He's
it's
an
tough.
F. He's an
Well,
F.
yeah, that. But undefeated, 18-0, like he beat Diego Lopez
Yeah,
through the
keep forgetting
grappling.
that.
Just, I think it's just a tough matchup for Aljo, but he does look a little more ripped at featherweight, so I think maybe Evilov will have a little more trouble getting Aljo to the ground than most, just because of his muscles. But I just think Evilov kind of wins those positions. Probably a close split decision, maybe 29-28 type of vibes. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a close fight. I think Evilov will like slightly edge him.
I think that 29-28 Evilov is kind of how I'm leaning. I think that the difference here is going to be the cardio, and just like better acclimation to the weight class. I think that I've seen Aljo kind of gas before, and that is in fights where he can usually, especially at bantamweight, he can usually impose his will and with the grappling. He's kind of been a size bully his whole career. Just out wrestling smaller guys, blanketing them, taking the back. Just getting to dominant positions where he can like rest at least. I think that that's like a big part of his game, and like I just think that like even if the wrestling is 50-50, which like it may be, I'm gonna give Evilov the edge because he's Russian, and just the size and shit. But like let's call it 50-50. With all else being even, like I have seen Aljo gas out when forced to fight at a high pace, such as like the Piotr Yan fight, etc. And I just think that like at best, if the wrestling's 50-50, I think that Sterling's gas tank will start to go a little bit before. I also think that Evolov has more power on the feet, which will only make Aljo have to like grapple more desperately, which will only gas him out a little bit faster. So I think that I agree with you that like the fight is close stylistically, but I think that Evolov should do enough to get the dub on across all cards by like one round. I see him splitting the first two, and then I can even see Aljo winning round one and then gassing out and losing two and three. That's kind of how I see it kind of playing out.
Yeah, I pretty much I agree with you guys. I got Evilov by decision. I think he's just more active on the feet. He's more willing to take risks on the feet. And Sterling's last performance, he absolutely dominated Cater, but it was literally just hugging. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but like it was just not an inspiring performance. I thought Evilov had some very inspiring performances recently against Allen, Lopez. I haven't seen much from Sterling recently, but this should be a fun one.
This is like one of the fights that I'm most looking forward to on the card. Just like not out of like a pure entertainment factor, but just like I don't know, man. I'm a fan of good grappling and like just seeing these guys mix it up on the ground is exciting to me. So I'm excited for this one for sure.
And there's a lot of stake in this fight.
Yeah.
The fight being as low as it is a goddamn shame, and
Yeah.
I just thought I need to address that as
Like we're
well.
talking about title implications against Ilya Taporia, who's like one of the hottest stars right now. I don't know how this is buried in the prelims.
This is
Disgusting.
what's going to be good grappling, unlike whatever Crone's about to do out there.
All right, though, guys, that wraps up pretty much all the really important fights. Anything else we want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Yeah, we might as well fucking briefly touch on a couple more of these, like Randy Brown, Brian Battle. I feel like that's a hell of a fight, man.
That's another one that could have been on the main card.
That tends to be a trend, isn't it? That's a trend with this card to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for this one, man. Randy Brown, I mean, he's on what, a three fight win streak. Before that, he got subbed up by JDM. But outside of that, like he's been taking nothing but dubs, man. Great boxing, great good use of his length, good power in his hands. And then on the other side, we got Brian Battle, who like seems to look better and better with every passing fight, man. If you were to if you were to look at all of like how it turned out for everyone in that season of Tough, this man was literally the last pick, and like even Trayshawn Gore, like he's had a much better UFC career than Trayshawn Gore, including beating him, you know? And it's just like that's just proof that like if you just believe in yourself, man, dedicate to the craft, this shit is not exact science. It's fighting, man. And I've seen like so much improvement off this man. From seeing him on Tough, like I will always root for him. I fucked with him then, I fuck with him now. Like I fuck with like his potential. He seems to be getting a lot stronger as well. Kind of had a bit of a more flabby frame before. Now he comes in there looking ripped, looking a lot stronger in there. Went down to welterweight, which I think is like a more fitting weight class for him. than 185. So yeah, I'm really excited for this fight. I'm gonna take in my boy Brian Battle, but I mean I think Randy Brown is a nice step up in comp for him for sure.
Yeah, I love this fight. My man Brian Battle, been watching him since tough. When I saw him right away and I heard his last name Battle, I knew he was a hooper. I was like, yep, right there. And now it was like he's the last pick. This man's huge compared to everyone else. Like, and he just proved on that season, even though he didn't fight Gore in the finale, ended up finishing him in the UFC. Like, this man's a star in the UFC. I'm picking him to win this fight. If he wins this fight, he should get a top 15 guy next, in my opinion. Because he's not just going out there like looking good. Like he's finishing people too. Like he's finishing every one of his fights basically. His one loss in the UFC is to Renat, um, which hasn't aged super well, but like that was just one of those days. I think he came in short notice for that fight. Just got taken down that whole fight. But on the feet, this will be an interesting fight because I think that's where this whole fight will be. I think Brian Battle's more likely to go for the takedown if there is any wrestling involved in this fight, which I think Brian Battle should do because I think he has the supreme edge there. Has plenty of submissions in his arsenal. Subbed up Petrosky on Tough, who's a very good wrestler and grappler himself. I think Brian Battle should win. I don't think he should be that big of a favorite though, as he currently is. I think this is a big step up in comp from who he fought before. And Randy Brown's hot right now. He's on a good win streak. Seems like he's starting to find himself in the UFC finally. So this is like two momentum trains going towards each other, and only one's gonna come out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. But I agree with you guys. I'm gonna pick Battle in this one, but the odds should be closer. Randy Brown's a dog. There's some more pretty exciting ones on this fight. Let's talk about the Clay Guida and Chase Hooper fight really quickly. This is like the definition of old versus new. What do you guys think about this one?
I think that the odds are a little bit disrespectful.
1,200.
Like that is not like first of all, Chase Hooper should not be that big of a favorite against anyone, let alone Clay Guida. But I do think a nice little minus 300 is about in order. The way I look at this fight, we know what Clay Guida's brought his whole career, wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. And against a lot of guys, that works well for him. He's scrappy with the hands. Um, I would say of all the aging legends, like he kind of has a bit of a Jim Miller to him in terms of like he's aging really slowly. I think that the way he fights and like he's always had like an abundance of energy to his game, an abundance of cardio and all that, an abundance of grit. And I think that those traits just kind of age well. While he might not be as fast or have as much cardio, I think that like because he already had such a good strong cardio base, like he can usually outpace a lot of these guys. He might be down one round, but then like, he's usually not going to be the fighter to tire out first in his matchups. So I feel like that like, brings him a long way. Um, and has allowed him to have a lot of longevity. On the flip side, we have Chase Hooper, who's like now finally coming into his man body. We've been seeing this kid forever, and like now he's like 24, 25, coming in, getting to his physical prime. Not in his physical prime yet, but you can see like he's not as disadvantaged just physicality wise as he was early in his career. And his striking seems to be coming along as well. Um, but the one thing that we can never question about Chase is like his grappling. He's always had that in spades, and I'm assuming that that's why he's such a big favorite here. Is the fact that like in Clay Guida's like one wheelhouse, like Chase Hooper probably has him outmatched at this current like phase and stage. So I don't I don't know how I think it's gonna get done. I don't know if I see him getting a finish of Guida. I kind of just see him, getting a pretty clear decision. Not even dominant, just a very clear decision. Um, but then again, like Chase Hooper might want to keep this on the feet and just like use this as a nice little step up, work the striking, use this as like some cage time to, work on whatever striking improvements he's made. Just because Clay Guida, he I guess has like powerful overhand rights or whatever, but not known for, single shot knockout power. Not too much of a threat on the feet. So I think Hooper should be able to like, evolve his game on Guida basically. And that's how I see this fight going. I think that Chase probably touches him up on the feet a little bit. And then they probably have some pretty close, maybe back and forth grappling exchanges. But Chase should be that's he should do enough to get the dub here. I do not like how wide these odds are, and like, yeah, it's a lot. It's pretty disrespectful to Guida, but like I do expect Chase to get this dub.
Alrighty, well, guys, that concludes our 3-10 preview. Thank you so
Oh,
much. Oh wait, what's up?
let's just do Whiteman versus Anders too.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, good. Oh, yeah. Clark and I were talking about like we already did that one, but we can run it back.
On like what, a previous video?
Did we?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
pretty because it got canceled.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it got canceled, but we didn't do a recap.
No.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll just cut this part out. All right.
All right, but like, let's talk about Chris Weidman, man. Veteran of the fucking game. He's been through the damn ringer, bro. He's been through the ringer, but for all of that, he got a win over Silva in his last fight, Bruno Silva. And before that, he was looking solid against Brad Tavares. He lost that decision, but he showed that like, I think he was like leg kicking in there, and like he showed that like his legs weren't absolutely chalked. So I mean, I think that this is a winnable fight for him. Unfortunately, this couldn't be happen in New York. I feel like that would have been a perfect send-off fight for Weidman in New
For sure.
York on the John Jones card, especially if he would have got a win. Like, there's really no reason for Weidman to keep doing this outside of just proving to himself he can come back from the injury that befell him. And because of that, like, I'm always gonna root for Weidman. Not only because he's an OG of the sport, and I'd probably be rooting for him anyway, but like. Just when you have one of those devastating leg breaks, like every fight that he's even in the cage and like doing well is just proof that like you can come back from things like that. Even like it gives me more hope for Connor, the fact that he's still around doing it after such a devastating leg break as well. So it's like I feel like Chris Weidman like offers that like little glimmer of hope for like the sport in general, and a sport where like these guys tear each other to pieces and like, injuries can devastate and fighters are never the same. It's good to see a fighter maybe not become what they once were, but like just get to a solid level. Like Sean Livingston, he never was what he once was, but he got back to a competent level and, achieved some rings. So here's to Chris Weidman, the Sean Livingston of the UFC, man. I'm hoping he gets this win. Winnable fight. Eric Anders, for his own credit, has been showing up in better shape recently, pushing a higher output than he did before. He was known for gassing out, and in his like last two fights, I believe, he hasn't gassed out nearly as much. So shout out him for like making late career improvements when I thought he was like, done or like stagnated at best. He did show some growth to his game. So I respect both of these guys. Nice little fun coin flip fight. I'm going with Weidman, but it is more of a my heart pick. But I do think that if Whiteman can get his wrestling going at all, he should be able to like control Eric Anders for like large stretches of the fight. And I just think that he should be able to hold his own on the feet. Eric Anders has short little arms, even though he has like power, but he has short arms. And so I think that like the veteran savvy of Whiteman should be able to get him this dub. And I kind of want to see him, maybe retire after this, ideally, if he does get a dub, especially.
Yeah, I like this matchup for Weidman. I think Anders is a big clincher, and I feel like against a caliber wrestler like Weidman, he also trains with the great, what's his name? I don't even know. Ray, whatever his
Oh,
name
Ray
is.
Longo,
Yeah,
that's your boy.
trains a Ray, so we know he's gonna have the wrestling on point, and he should kind of win this fight, even though the age and the leg break. I feel like just skill wise, he should be a lot better than Eric Anders. Coming off the Bruno Silva win, I don't know if that age is the best after what I saw Bruno Silva just do a few weeks ago, but
Piss poor.
yeah, it was bad. He did not come in looking good either. So I feel like Wyman should win, but it's kind of one of these fights. Maybe Anders, who has been fighting better lately, comes in with the confidence, the grit to get through it. But I feel like Chris Weidman is more of a grit man. I feel like Anders like gasses out a lot in his fights as well. So I would lean Chris Weidman in this. I hope he retires. I don't think he will.
Really?
I don't.
Damn.
I think he'll continue. And yeah, that like it's a scary thing. Like he's just gonna have to deal with that every fight he's in there.
Former
I'm not
former champ too.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I would not mind Chris Weidman versus Nick Diaz because I feel like they are both kind of like when I think of like the short list of fighters that even would be fair to put against Nick Diaz, I do think Weidman might be on that little short list. I don't think he's gonna have like they're both too old guys, so I think that they can like both have like that similar, slower, less output style
Yeah.
that will allow them to both kind of survive that fight or at least fight on pretty even ground. So I'm not mad at that matchup if they want to, keep this Legends division going. But
And that'd be a perfect last fight for both of them. Just two like legends of the previous generation. Yeah, that'd be pretty epic. All right, guys. Anything else on this card we want to talk about? Oh, we have to pick. What do you guys think is going to be fight of the night?
I could really see if they don't care about like the name value of the two people in it, I could see Nate Landwehr versus Duho Choi being
That's
fight
what
of
I was thinking.
the. I could also see if Ian Gary can, prevent the grappling for some time. I could see that fight getting interesting just because I know Shavkat gonna march him down and stay in his face, and I can see if Gary can, keep his output high. I think I can see that being like a fast and furious kind of fight for as long as it lasts. So I could see either Shavkat, Gary, or but my pick is gonna be Nate Landwehr versus Duo Choi for sure.
Yeah, same with me. Landry Choi. Honestly, I'd maybe throw in there like Van versus who's the
Dirt.
fight? Yeah, Durden. I think because Van's just usually in those crazy fights, so maybe he pulls one out, but I doubt it.
I could
Usually,
I could see a sleeper Randy Brown versus Battle.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was thinking that too.
I was thinking that, but I think I don't know if it'll have the same like Doohoo Choi Landwehr effect. I don't know.
Facts.
All right, what about give me a performance of the night?
Ooh, Shavka, baby.
Shavkat. Okay.
Shavkat and or Cyril Gahn. I could see Cyril Gahn coming in here reinvigorated and kind of styling on Volkov, to be honest.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, that concludes our preview of UFC 310. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know who you think are going to win these fights in the comments. Please check out the TikTok and our YouTube shorts, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.